Hi all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jenny. I'm going to insert a little bit of footage here of me picking up Good Girl by Aria Aber from the library. I picked it up a few days ago and I was really happy that the hold came in as soon as it did. So I have begun the book and I'm not very far in yet. I think I am 35 pages in. So in case you don't know, this book is on the long list of the Women's Prize for Fiction. And I've heard several booktubers that I follow talk about not really liking it. I think one of them DNF'd. So this is set in Berlin. It follows a young woman of Afghanistan descent. She's from Afghanistan, her family. They immigrated to Berlin, and she's a party girl, but she's also trying to be good, a good immigrant girl to her parents. So this is where we are so far. I think there's stuff about art and philosophy and life in here. I'm trying to keep an open mind because I think that from the impressions that these other booktubers gave, that they didn't really want to read about a young woman, experimenting with drugs and talking about art all the time or that type of thing. But I don't read novels like this very much. I don't read novels about coming of age novels very much because I do find I can get oversaturated on them. And so if I'm being honest, I'm trying to think if I've read any coming of age novels this year yet. If I have, it's maybe one or two. So I'm keeping an open mind with this one. I don't think I will be finished this book. I maybe finish this book before the shortlist is announced. And that'll be good if I can finish it before then and you can read the blog. But if not, and it doesn't make the shortlist, then, it'll just be a long lister. So yeah, that is where I am right now in my fresh reads reading. I thought I might combine this vlog with my Women's Prize for Nonfiction blog because I'm also currently reading 1,000 Threads by Nina Cherry, but I think I'm going to keep them separate. So just know that I'm finishing up that one. And that will be its own vlog. And then I've got Good Girl by Aria Aber. And I do have another novel that is on my Fresh Reads list. It is a new release of 2025. And I will start that one, I don't know when. I probably won't start reading it actually until April. So yeah, that was my little reading update for you. I don't know what you're going to see in this vlog because I'm trying to just film what I can and show you a little bit of my life along with the reading updates. I will check in with you when I'm halfway through the book. Hey everybody. So I've reached halfway in Good Girl by Aria Aber. So for me, this is a coming of age novel. We're following Nila. Nila's parents immigrated from Afghanistan to Berlin, and Nila is struggling with the dual identity that so many immigrant children, first generation, deal with, where their parents are of a culture and they are now immersed in another culture, and they struggle between those two cultures. And as the child growing up, you are pulled between those cultures. But Nila is very much wanting to be free. She's struggling with the confines of her parents and what they want her to be. So the whole idea of Good Girl is very much thematically shown throughout the whole thing is this idea of what is good, of what she should be, what she is, what she wants to be, who she aspires to be, all these things. It's really very much about that conflict internally, and I'm finding it quite good. Like, I'm really enjoying it. So yes, she takes a lot of drugs, and I think if I don't know, we all have had different youth experiences and grown up differently, and I think for a lot of people who maybe are not exposed to drug culture very much, or a kind of casual drug culture, if I can call it that, when they were growing up, then they might find this, if you don't like reading about someone taking drugs, then you probably won't enjoy this. But I think if you can look at her consumption of drugs as a way in which she is exploring her own ownership of her body, her pain, her challenges of being in the world that she's in. So she's coming of age during the mid 2000s. So I think she mentioned the Obama administration. So I can't exactly remember when that was. Was it 2008 that he went into power? Something like that. So in that period, she's coming of age. She's, I think, 19 when we're almost 20 and then she's also moving back and forth in time. So you're getting backstory from her parents, you're getting backstory from her childhood, and you're getting backstory from the immigrant Afghan culture. So they're not there alone. There's aunts, there's uncles, there's other people of Afghan descent who have immigrated to Berlin. So you're getting Berlin, you're getting an immigrant culture of Berlin, like a specific view of it. You're also getting a more privileged view because Neela is involved in a relationship with an older man named Marlowe. So I know that this as well is problematic for a lot of people because and it can be problematic for me too. I can find it hard to read about a young woman who involves herself with an older man sexually, emotionally, because it feels like a story that has been told many times. But this one has not. I do not find this one to be taking me down the same road as a lot of the other books I've read with this type of theme has. There is an interesting awareness that Neela has of herself that I find makes the story quite, like, it keeps me engaged in the story, and it keeps me wanting to know what's going to happen next. She is very self-aware. So the recklessness that because she's being reckless, she is being irresponsible, she is being, but she's doing it, I don't know, the way it's written, the way it's delivered, her way of being possessed by herself, I find she feels empowered to me. She feels like she's just trying to figure it out. So just give her some space to figure it out. That's the way it feels to me. And I want her to figure it out, and I want to give her the space. And maybe she's not going to figure it out. I don't know. But I don't know. I think the writing is very good. I think this is a debut novel. I've got 2 spots that I tabbed so that I could read you a little bit so you could get a little bit of an idea of it. I just want to read you a little bit of her experience. This is also very much about being an immigrant and like being in a Western country and how that affects her. But The Lebanese people from apartment 12 bought a semi-detached. The Iranian girls snubbed me, called me gypsy child and Jew nose, made fun of my parents' barbarian dialect and stern belief in tradition. In turn, I pitied their unschooled parents, their cheerfulness and lack of dignity. But in truth, we were the wanting ones who missed the quick, red-hot train to upward mobility. We didn't make it. Dregs of families, Afghans, Belarusians, Eastern Germans with names such as Chantal and Kevin, clusters of skinheads and Kurds. New families moved in, families sculpted by tragedy, lives financed by food stamps, coupons, the ink of unemployment benefits. The ones who managed to move out ended up driving Mercedes and Audis, shopped at better supermarkets, paid taxes, lived in apartments that weren't riddled with spores, houses that included soil and rose bushes, and open kitchen plans with stainless steel, inheritance and acquisition, mortgage, ownership, a concept that would remain alien to us. So, she's very much able to, the author is really weaving this experience in with Neela's view of the world. So Neela is very intelligent. She's got a good head on her shoulders. She's smart, but she's also reckless and is choosing that recklessness to some degree. And so, yeah, like I said, as the title suggests, there's always this idea of being a good girl and what that means to her and what she perceives it meaning to her parents. And so on this is page 168, she says, only years later, I'd understand that my parents were confused. I was their only child, and they were growing up with me. They couldn't decide which rules to keep and which to discard. They didn't have the clean orders of God and religion, traditions written in a book, even though religion ordered most things. Their structure of behavior was dictated by a societal tradition in which reputation was the most important thing. As long as you had good standing in the community, you were honorable. But I envied the orderliness of religion, how easy it seemed to have a set of morals to adhere to, a set that connected you to the higher essence. Stupidly, I daydreamed about a version of reality in which we were God-fearing people, and my heart would be pure. The only uncle I liked, Darius, was my father's eldest brother. He was a tall man with sculpted features and rimless glasses. He had been an engineer in the old country, but he had accepted his fate here with grace and gratitude. He prayed 5 times a day. He was soft-spoken, and often I wished that he were my father. So, yeah, I really think that one of the strengths of this book is Neela's observations that are woven in with her experiences in the plot. And yeah, for me, it's just really good, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm not finding anything problematic about it thus far that is making me not want to keep going. So I am going to keep reading, and I will check in again with you when I have finished. So I finished Good Girl by Aria Aber, and I have to say this was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. I think that the fact that Aria Aber's third language is English is incredible. Her writing is so good. You can tell that she's a poet in how she writes, but she also just has this way of conveying her ideas and the situation that I just found so readable and so relatable. I think that the detractors around this novel feel that it's just a bunch of teenagers doing a lot of drugs and and like an abusive kind of older men in the background. And they really, if you dig deeper underneath there, this is a story, a coming of age story in the classic sense. And it's a story about abuse. So our character Neela is, she lives in a home where she is, physical violence is used as a disciplinary measure. And then she goes into a relationship where there's physical violence as well. And she sees that violence as something, as a communication tool, as a sign of love and passion. Like, she has that very much wrapped up in her. It's part of, some might say the trauma of her life and how she understands herself. It's also attached to the shame that she feels for her culture and her origins, which is something that is inflicted on her because of the culture she lives in, but also because of the events of 9/11, and because of this, heightened sense of fear and for her culture, for her religion, which she doesn't necessarily identify with because she's grown up in another culture. So there's so many layers here. To me, there isn't too much talking about art or Kafka or philosophy. I feel like there's just enough, and it's all done conversationally. So it's all about, finding out ideas and sharing those ideas as youth. And I found it very relatable to being young myself, and being when I was in university and going out and partying, and you're trying to find out who you are, but you're also trying to just enjoy your life and enjoy being young. But there's all these things that you may want to hide about yourself, or all these things that you, like identities that you're putting on to try to see if they fit. So there's just, there's really so much in here. I did tab another section to read to you, just to give you another sense of the writing. Oh yes, so I thought this was a beautiful example of how well Aria Aber is able to convey the alienation between Neela and Marlo. So Neela, a young Afghan woman who grew up in Germany, and Marlo, an older white man who grew up in the United States. And he, there's always, their relationship is very dysfunctional, it's abusive, but there's also this level with their relationship where he's trying to grab something from his past, and he's trying to hold on to something, his youth essentially, and she is trying to feel belonging and love and acceptance and all those things that you are looking for usually in relationships wrongly when you're that age. And so they're talking, and he's asking her to, to reveal herself to him, to be honest, because she has finally admitted to him and to all their friends that she isn't Greek or Italian, she is Afghan. And so he says, he wants her to tell him why she lied. And so she says, because I'm dumb, I said as I stepped around a puddle, because I am ashamed of who I am, and I have always been ashamed. I want to be someone else. And we all want to be someone else, Marlo chewed on his lip. Not you, though. Yes, I definitely want to be someone else, he said, and put his cigarette out. But the minute he did this, he took another one. I need a drink. We settled on an empty bar on Warschauer Straße, and sat down at a table facing the street. 80s pop murmured from the speakers, and a young man with long hair tended the bar. Marlo briefly held small talk with the bartender and returned with 2 pints of Indian Pale Ale. He wiped the fogged up glass. Gulping the bitter, yeasty beer, I prepared to speak. I grew up sad and poor. There was something about poverty that, you don't need to explain poverty to me, he said. I know what it's like. I shut my mouth. He didn't understand what my poverty was like. He was someone who came from a ranch, who inherited money, no debt. Tell me the one true memory for once. Okay, I said, but I was hurt. I gathered myself, my memories into a tidy pile and arbitrarily fished for truths. So I just love how she how she showed through conversation this lack of ability for Marlowe to really understand that even if he did experience poverty, his experience of poverty could never be like Neela's. So, you know, this book is filled with ideas like this, presented so crisply with just, to me, I was deeply connected to the characters and felt for them. So even though Marlowe was a deplorable person and did lots of terrible, horrible things to Neela, to other people, I still felt a level of sympathy for him, a level of, what did I feel for him? I felt sorry for him. I felt like he was like a lost puppy in a world, and he couldn't understand how much havoc he was wreaking. He was kind of pathetic. He was kind of, and Neela really had the power in the relationship the whole time, and she had to step into that herself. So I found this a very satisfying novel, and I really hope it makes the shortlist, because I think that a lot of people should read this. I know a lot of people have dismissed it because of the drugs and the partying, and I don't really understand why, because I think there's a lot of books like this that men have written about doing drugs and partying that are considered like modern classics in the world. And so, you know, don't dismiss this just because it's got that subject matter, because it is very deep. It has a lot to say about the world. It has a lot to say about Western culture versus, Afghan culture, but Muslim culture, Islam. It has a lot to say about growing up as an immigrant in a Western country. It has a lot to say about finding yourself as a woman and stepping into who you are without shame. It's got a lot of beautiful themes that I think you are too easily dismissed if you allow the partying and the drugs to deter you from what this book is trying to say. And I do think that the partying and the drugs it's a path. It's a path that a lot of people take. A lot of people don't make it out of that path, you know? A lot of people go down that path and they stay there, which I think is what the character of Marlowe represents. They suffer there, they become addicts, they can't get out. Some people go through it and come out the other side. Some people see it recreationally and always have it as a recreational part of their lives. Other people, it's just a phase and they get out. Like it's a valid path. It's a valid path that a lot of people do. Whether or not you did it, whether or not you think it's healthy, you know, there's a lot of unhealthy parts of being a youth that we all work through. But I just think that this was a brilliant novel. I'm so glad I read it. And so that's going to conclude this Fresh Reads vlog. I'm going to pick up with my next Fresh Read, which is not on any prize lists. It's just a 2025 release, the New Internationals. And I hope to be also reading Nesting by Roshan O'Donnell. I don't know when I'm going to get that one from the library. I have it on hold. But was number 5 on the list last time I checked. So whether or not Nesting is on the long list, whether or not Good Girl or short list, and whether or not Good Girl is on the short list, I am so happy that the Women's Prize brought this book to my attention and that I got to read it when it was fresh. So I will be back again soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching.